we can give you further information today. I want to introduce you to Emmanuel Herrera. He's 19 years of age. Emmanuel and Carla Hilaro, who is 17 years of age, are brothers and sisters. Late in the evening, they were walking through the neighborhood and stopped to look at a vehicle. When they stopped to look at the vehicle, Joseph Colon and his brother, Felix Colon, said that Emmanuel was looking mean-mugging them. I think their terminology was looking nasty or giving us a nasty look. So when these two folks, along with some other friends, decided Emmanuel was looking at them nasty or mean-mugging them, they started to come out of their house. Emmanuel testifies that he and Carla testified to us during witness statements separately that they thought that Felix had a gun. So Felix and Joseph followed them about 58 yards down the road in the mobile home park away from the original encounter. And at that point in time, here's simply what occurred. Well, Felix punched Emmanuel in the chest. And Felix punched Emmanuel in the chest after they had already heard the sound of a stun gun. Apparently another girl, when the confrontation began and they were following each other down the street, executed a stun gun, and you could hear it popping. So now our deceased punches Emmanuel in the chest. He believes Emmanuel has a gun, so he pulls his firearm and shoots one time. And Felix, as a result of that, is struck underneath the left arm. It travels completely through his torso, and he dies from those injuries. As soon as the shot occurred, then Joseph tried to shoot Emmanuel. And Joseph's gun wouldn't work, so he racked another round in it and shot one time as well. That accounted for the multiple gunshots that were heard. When Felix was shot, he turned and ran about 30 yards behind the mobile home. And that accounts for the fact that the Lake Alfred police officer who arrived didn't see anything. He questioned the Colons, some of the Colons that were out, and they go, "No, I haven't seen anything." And later on, Joseph Colon finds his brother deceased behind the mobile home. So the investigation is underway. That night, which was last night, as I indicated to you, both Joseph Colon and Emmanuel Herrera were charged. Both of them were charged with carrying a concealed firearm, and both of them were charged with tampering with evidence because both of them independently hid their firearm. So the investigation went on to try to find out, hey, did Joseph shoot his brother by mistake, or did Emmanuel shoot Felix? At the autopsy this morning, the evidence that we secured initially suggests that Emmanuel fired a close-range shot that ultimately killed Felix. But here's the issue that we're having to work through. Both Emmanuel and Carla at that moment in time believed Felix had a firearm. He didn't. But they both told us, we saw a firearm and we think it was being given to Felix. And maybe it was. If it was handed off to Joseph, because Joseph's the one that actually had the firearm. But Emmanuel did not confront them. In fact, he was walking away, trying to get away from the crowd of people when he was confronted by the two brothers, punched in the chest. He retaliated with firing one round because he thought that Felix had a firearm. So we've got to work through the issue. Was Emmanuel Herrera standing his ground, or did he commit a criminal charge of murder? We'll be working with the state attorney through that set of circumstances with the physical evidence as it comes back to us from the lab. Once again, it's another example, and we've seen it all over the nation where they said, well, he shot him and he didn't even have a gun. Well, he didn't have a gun after the fact, but it was what did he perceive at that moment in time? Was his life and his sister's life in grave danger? He had seen a firearm. He was clearly retreating when he and his sister were overtaken by the Colognes. That's the data that we're faced with. That's the information we've got to work with. And that's what we'll be working with the state attorney's office, and obviously seeing if all the witnesses, because there's multiple witnesses, we think we've talked to them all, but maybe we haven't. How does all that square up when we put the entire case together? And as you well know, we are, just over 24, 30, 35 hours maybe into the investigation. So, are there any questions on that before we go to the next issue?
Sheriff, I would just ask you your reaction to a 24-year-old losing his life over a supposed dirty look.
Well, once again, if you talk to Emmanuel and Carla, they stop to look at the gun. If you believe the Colognes, that he was mean mugging them or giving them nasty looks, there was obviously, you don't want anyone to lose their life. But let me underscore, there's never going to be a murder that makes sense that's worth somebody losing their life. And then I hear people say, well, not in this particular case, but in cases, well, they were crazy. Well, of course they're crazy. Normal people don't murder people. And of course we had a conflict here, because normal people walking down the street, even if they stop to look at a gun, don't get confronted and shot. So these folks did not know each other, neither the Colognes or Emmanuel Herrera or his sister, according to them. They did, even though they lived in the same vicinity, they did not know each other. The information they tell us that there was not a previous conflict. So why in the world would you confront people with a firearm? Well, I can tell you why. Because criminals carry firearms, and they carry firearms in violation of the law. And in fact, Felix Cologne, who ultimately did not have the firearm in this circumstance, at least at that moment in time, according to what we know, is on felony probation for carrying a concealed firearm on another occasion. That's why I tell people, this is all simple. It's not rocket science, but it's a whole lot more important than that. Leave people alone. If you confront people, if you scare people, if they believe you have a gun, if they believe you have a knife, they're likely to shoot you if they have one, even if they're carrying it illegally, which he was. So our shooter, whether or not he faces criminal charges for the murder, for the homicide, we don't know that yet. But he's certainly going to face other criminal charges. We don't want to see anyone shot and killed ever. But you can believe when the testosterone runs wild and people are assaulted and threatened and somebody's carrying an illegal firearm, the chances of them making a bad decision increases. So there you have it.
Sheriff, you said there was a stun gun. Did you recover one?
There was a stun gun. We did recover it. It was discharged by a young lady that was Joseph Cologne's girlfriend. She cycled it, Gabriella, who was 20, cycled it back up at the house. So according to the Emmanuel, he and his sister, they looked at the car, they saw the people on the porch, they started asking them, what are you doing? They started to leave. Gabriella executes the stun gun just to make noise, because a popping sound. They're 58 yards away. The Colognes have followed them down. They saw one person hand another person a gun. They both tell us they thought that Felix was the one with the gun. Felix comes up, punches them. At that point in time, Emmanuel pulls his gun and shoots. And we have a dead young man that shouldn't be dead. But that's what happens when you confront people and you scare people and they believe you have a gun, and that's what occurred here. Now we have to sort through all of that to see what the final decision will be, and we'll be working through that with the state attorney's office. Okay? Now, here's the next event some of you have asked about. It's about 6:15 p.m. on Thursday, April the 15th. Travis Farley is 84 years of age. He doesn't move very well, and he's on a walker, and he's been to the convenience store. He's leaving the convenience store on his walker when two people get into this white 2004 to 2007 model white GMC truck, and they back up to leave. They're backing up very slowly, and all of a sudden in the video clip, which we will show you, you see the truck backs into him and knocks him down. And then the truck is put in gear and it slowly pulls out and then goes north. We suspect, at least according to the activity with the white truck, they may not have even recognized that they hit him. He's got a slight cut. He's adverse to doctors and hospitals. He goes home and he's got a small cut, and he doesn't report the accident or the incident, nor does he go to the hospital. Now it's Tuesday, April the 20th, about 5 days later. Our Special Victims Unit responds to a medical neglect case because EMS has been called by some of his family when they notice this cut is infected and it's really, really bad, and it apparently was caused by the crash, and they had been trying to get their relative to go to the hospital, and he refused. Well, EMS gets there, and we get there, and we do this investigation. We find out that it's self-medical neglect, that he refused to be helped. Now he's at the hospital, and he's in significantly serious condition. Based upon the information we receive, there's a better than average chance that he may not survive, and it was not the original injury. It was added to by the fact that he had the cut, he got infected, he's 84 years old, and he had some diminishing medical episodes that occurred from that. So what we need to do is talk to these folks. You'll see the video clip here, and we'll play it for you. As you'll see, it looks evident that when you watch the whole clip that I'm not sure that they knew that they hit him, because even after they bumped him, they continued to back up a little bit. They didn't roll over him again, and then they calmly pull out. As you see, he's struggling. He's struggling. They bump him, and they continue to back up. Fortunately, they didn't run over him anymore. They slowly put the car in gear. They ease out to the roadway, where they pull north without any excitement at all. We want to talk to those folks. We need to complete this investigation. Now, what really frustrates you, now you have this gentleman trying to get back up on his walker. There's people over here. There's people or vehicles at gas pump. This person has to drive around him. Did you hear me? They had to drive around him, but did they offer to go out and help the old man? No. That ain't Polk County, folks. In Polk County, we stop and help people. I am more angry at this person that drove around him in the parking lot. Of course, they had to probably run in and get their beer or cigarettes for the night, you know. So I'm really angry that they didn't go out there and try to help him. But he finally gets up on his walker and he totters back off to the house. I just can't believe it. I can't believe an 84-year-old man can get bumped and knocked down, and there's people and cars around, and one person drives around him in the parking lot and nobody offers to help.
Can you speak to how it started with the SVU team and how deputies found this video?
Yeah, what occurred was EMS got called by the family. He continued for 5 days to say, I don't want help, I don't want help, I don't want help. It got infected. It was a real nasty infection. So finally, the family said, look, I know he doesn't like hospitals or doctors, but we're calling anyway. EMS gets there and sees this and sees the environment he's living in and goes, ooh, we need to get law enforcement involved in this. They called us. Obviously, in addition to that, we call for services for him, and we called our detectives in immediately because we go above and beyond. Our SVU detectives now are putting this thing together and find out, wait a minute, the domino that tipped over that created this lineage of events started with a traffic crash. So they went back to the store cooperated, pulled the video, we saw it, we called our traffic experts in to work the traffic side of it, and our traffic homicide team, which is simply the very best, said, boss, we're not sure that they're even aware that they hit him, because when they hit him, it appears that they didn't hit his metal walker, they just bumped him. And you see when they bumped him, he immediately toppled over, and they continued to back up. Well, they didn't hit him again, fortunately, but that tells you that, you know, if you hit something and you're aware of it, your natural reaction is to stop. Well, they continued their natural back until they pull forward. So we need to speak with them.
But the detectives or the deputies like retraced his days, right?
Of course.
To go back.
Well, they told him where it happened. He told them where it happened.
Oh.
He cooperated with them. Now, you can say, well, the truck left the scene of the crash. It did, but so did the old man. He has an obligation to report as well because there are injuries there. But he was 84 years old, or is 84 years old, and he's in significantly serious condition. I would call it critical condition at the hospital at this time.
Do you have a description of the people in the truck? Is it like two men or man and a woman?
You can see from there, I just glanced at it, but we'll get you a more complete description. I saw one get in the passenger side, and the one in the obviously had to get in the driver's side, so that we suspect there's two. I guess they could have got in on the passenger side and slid over, but that's not likely.
Sheriff, if you're not aware of something happened, you can't be charged, can you?
Well, it depends on obviously the investigation. Will have to tell us that. That is our supposition at this point in time. We may find other witnesses, or we might find other evidence that lead us to believe that he was, but our supposition by our traffic experts at this moment in time is there is a distinct possibility that they were unaware that they bumped him. Okay? Anything else? Y'all be safe, have a good day. You know, the Santa sign.